Hi everybody, welcome to week 7. I'm going to start this week's video by just going through some of the answers that I got on that survey I administered from last week, the anonymous survey where I asked you to rate one thing that you like to keep about our class, one thing you'd like to quit doing, and one thing you like to start doing. So these kinds of surveys are something I like to do, a few weeks into a class to see what's working, what I can change if there's anything that can make it better, anything that you absolutely hate. So I really appreciate all of you who filled it out. It's really helpful for me to get to read your feedback. So a few things. You generally like the annotations and the discussions of the poll everywhere questions, which is really great to hear from me. So to me, those two things are kind of the heart of the class, and it's really where you get to engage with the themes that are brought up in each module. I really enjoy reading your responses every week in both of those areas, so keep up the good work in that way, and I'm glad that you like them too. As for quitting, so a few of you gave me some suggestions, and I'll just go through them if you hopefully you'll find it helpful to hear my responses. So some of you don't really like the discussions of interacting with your classmates. I'll just remind you, you don't have to interact. Like if you don't want to reply to one of your classmates, you can just post your opinions on both of the questions and then just leave it at that. As long as you post twice to the discussion board, that's all that matters. I do like to see the conversations, but if you are really not interested in that, that's up to you. The reading guides. So some of you have expressed a little bit of a concern because you feel like you have to answer every single question on the guide. The guides are just there as a guide. So I'm more concerned that you are posting at least once to each reading in your annotations. You don't have to go through and post a response to every single question. If it gets tedious or you feel like it's not helping you in your analysis, pick and choose the questions or just sort of give your feedback and your thoughts, whatever you feel like is most beneficial to you to get the most out of the readings. And then overall, I think the annotations that you all are doing are great. Some of you expressed a little bit of concern, just not knowing whether or not you're doing them right. If you are concerned that your analysis isn't quite getting to where I want it to be. Overall, I don't think that there's a major problem in any case, but I will try in the next couple weeks to give some more specific concentrated feedback on the annotations. If you would like that, or like me to go back and look at some of yours, feel free to email me and I'm happy to do that. All right, the last thing is or not the last thing, but the next thing is what you all would like to start doing in the class. I got some good suggestions from a few of you, and I'll take them into account as we move forward. One person suggested that I try to go over the lecture notes verbally to emphasize what's most important. So I'm going to take that into account when I do these weekly videos, try to give you a little bit more information about what you should be paying attention to in the lecture slides. I'm not going to commit to doing sort of a verbal lecture as we go through each module. I just know that I won't have time to do that, and I don't want to promise something I can't deliver on. But hopefully me giving you sort of a preview of what is most important will help in that way. Another good way to look into it is what the poll everywhere questions are about, because if I'm asking you a question about it, I consider it to be kind of a significant point of the lecture. Another person said that in other online classes you're given 2 deadlines with class discussions where you're expected to make your comment and then a couple days later go back and reply. That's a really great idea. I like it a lot, and I plan on incorporating it into future classes. I'm not going to change up the way we do things now just because I don't want it to be too confusing for everyone. But if you want to do that on your own, make your post for the discussion posts in Wednesday, and then come back on Saturday and see what classmates have been said and reply to someone. Go for it. That sounds great. All right, last thing is the questions that were posed to me. There's a few that I'll answer here. Instagram posts. One of you asked about the guidelines for that assignment. I will post more details about this soon. I actually don't know the guidelines yet. This is a new assignment that I'm trying, and so I'm figuring out exactly what I want you to do and how you'll be setting up your actual posts. So stay tuned. Another question, is there a way to track your own personal annotations to double check that you did them for each reading? Unfortunately, no. I really wish there was. Hypothesis is just recently integrated into Canvas, and I feel like this is a major problem that they have. And I actually have a line of communication open with some of the support people there, so I can tell them this is a comment that I've gotten. What I think you can do is, I believe you can click on the person icon in the upper right hand corner of the Hypothesis sidebar, and when you see your name, you can click on it and see all the annotations that you've done. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, my video cut off and I had to restart my video. So anyway, so I believe that if you click on the person icon, you'll be able to click on your name and it'll bring up all the annotations that you've done. What else you can do is you can type your own name into the search magnifying glass point in this Hypothesis sidebar, and it'll bring up all the annotations you've done from that reading. That's actually what I do to grade your annotations. I just go through each reading and type in your names. So that's one way to check if you feel like you can't remember if you did the annotations or not. Okay, the next question is, do you teach History 109? I do. Take my class. The last question is there a grace period for the homework? So this is actually something that I realized wasn't too clear at the beginning of the semester. Originally, I had intended the 2-day grace period to only apply to the assignments, like the papers and the Instagram posts and podcasts, and not for the homeworks, the annotations or the discussions. However, I think it should apply for the homework too. Sometimes things come up and you have these weekly things, and I want to make sure that you have the chance to get them in. You might have noticed that I usually post the points for those annotations and discussions on Wednesdays. So if you get them in, Monday, Tuesday, I'll grade them just like everybody else's and they'll be fine. So in essence, yes, you do have the 2-day grace period for homework. There is that cushion if you need it. All right, thank you so much to all of you who filled out the survey. I really, really appreciate it, and it's very helpful for me to hear from you. Okay, so moving on to some of the themes that you'll be talking about in this week's modules. This week it's all about immigration, the progressive era, reforms. Basically, what I want you to focus on is how politicians and government agents and reformers, basically all of the officials in American society, how they tried to solve the problems that they saw in society. So this is in the context of all of this massive change and upheaval. You have industrialization, urbanization, huge numbers of immigration. How did people cope with all of this chaos that was brought by all these changes? Basically, progressive era is all about imposing order on chaos. It's about new bureaucracy, new institutions, new bureaus that come up to try to tamp down on all the chaos. So I'm interested to see how you all think that these people are defining problems. What are these problems that they see, and are they actually problems? There is a lot of interesting stuff in this module about race and eugenics and how people define what is desirable and undesirable in a citizen or an immigrant. I want you to pay attention to the definitions that people came up with about how to define proper citizenship, proper family structures, proper gender roles, proper healthcare concerns. There's a lot of tensions that you'll see in these debates about how people were dealing with all of this massive change that we've been discussing in the past couple modules. And then lastly, I really hope that these modules provide you with some good context to understand the immigration debates of today. Immigration is something that we hear about constantly in the news. It's all over the place. You hear a lot of people advocating for restriction, and then also the other side, people advocating for the rights of immigrants. How does this moment that we're studying this week, in the early 20th century, compare to a century later? What are some of the parallels that you see? I'm interested to read that in your annotations and see it in your discussions as well. The last thing is this. I'm still working through the grades for the primary source analysis paper A. I'm a little bit behind on them. I will get them up to you in the next couple days, and I will let you know when they're up. So just bear with me on that. And that's it. Have a great week. Thank you, everybody.